Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. As part of a comprehensive news analysis today, we'll be discussing some important articles out of the Hindu newspaper. But as always, before we begin, an important announcement. We have 5 questions for you ready out of these topics after this session on the Telegram channel. So do not forget to subscribe to our Telegram channel. And as it is, if you're liking these videos, if you find them constructive and fruitful, do like, share and subscribe to the session and this video itself. So with this, let's enter our 4 or 5 very important articles we have to cover. As always, the structure is going to be basic idea, thereafter detail, and then we'll go into what we call as the revision process, 2 times, 3 times revision with the same session. So when we talk about the first topic, which is about Delhi's air pollution, this is a perpetual topic. It's a perpetual topic. It's a topic which has been there for a very, very long time in the news. We've been talking about it in the CNA itself with regards to stubble burning, then pelletization, then torrefaction, how stubble burning can be mitigated. We've discussed one solution, which is torrefaction or pelletization, which is to convert them into something which can be added to coal in thermal power plants. We've discussed how we need to change it from paddy cultivation and wheat cultivation. There's a need for change for agricultural technology and agricultural techniques in this sector. We've also seen there have been different types of solutions, from spray guns to different monitoring stations to technically literal air purifiers in Delhi itself. But now finally we have a very important development in this story. So the Delhi air pollution story is very simple. As you know, now it's technically become static in that way. You know very well that it is 2 things which contribute to Delhi air pollution. One is the vehicular pollution and the construction activity which is happening there itself, but also the second more important thing is the upper air circulation, which pushes the stubble burning, which is stubble being burned in the farms itself, because that adds fertility and that is the only way they can dispose of that stubble. And that because of that upper air circulation leads to the smoke adding to the fog of Delhi, making it smog, and these 2 factors come together. Now, if we look at the data, for example, if we look at the data of pollution of Delhi during this period, winter season, we get to know, okay, PM 2.5 or PM 10, the particulate matter 2.5, particulate matter 10, is at a level which is very dangerous. So it may be at 323, 400 goes up till 600. But we don't know what is the distribution of this pollution, which is that how much is coming from biomass burning, how much is coming from vehicular pollution, how much is coming from construction activities, and how much is stubble burning. This means that be it the central government or the state government, they've been fighting over the reason. So when the center says that it is Delhi specific, the state says it is something from Haryana, Punjab and the western sector itself. Now this meant that we were in the dark. We knew that the pollution was high, but we did not know that the pollution, how is it distributed. Therefore, there is a very important development now, which is that Delhi will be now having real-time monitoring of pollution data with a super site, a site on which you can just go and check what is the data itself, real-time, meaning it changes within an hour, and mobile laboratories, which is that these are labs on vans which will go on, which will move around and capture the data real-time. And then this will in turn give us a better understanding. Now this development is important because this real-time data is extremely significant, because it gives us a very important understanding of the distribution. And this is the new thing in this whole system, that we will get to know what percentage is biomass, what percentage is non-biomass, what percentage vehicular pollution, what is what. This is a very important concept. So Delhi government is going to introduce this very soon, but a very important concept in itself, and that is why we are discussing it, which is real-time monitoring of systems. And it also tells us a loophole in the way we actually look at pollution data, which is that absolute pollutant data, air quality index, has no meaning if you don't know the source. And that is why we are discussing this topic itself, because there has been this gap in this story. In the Delhi story, there has always been a gap, which is that we have never got to know the basic distribution of what is adding how much. And what is more important for you in the examination is you can easily get a question with regards to what are the different authorities which are involved in this. So we have IIT Kanpur, IIT Delhi, the TERI Institute, the Energy and Resource Institute, along with IISER Mohali, coming together under the aegis of Delhi Pollution Control Committee, and they all are technically creating this model which can now be used to give a pinpoint definition. So as the article itself says very interestingly, that the model will give us a detailed source and detailed repository of how the pollution is happening. It is sources of air pollution. How much is biomass when we are burning garbage? How much is vehicular? How much is stubble? How much is generally the construction activity? This is very, very significant, which is to get a basic breakup, which is it will help us understand exact cause of air pollution and their percentage. For instance, vehicular pollution 23%, biomass 28%. This is very, very important because this type of information has never been available either to the center or to the state. And this has allowed for many developed countries to understand their pollution, and this will also help us understand what is Delhi's pollution concept. So I'm again repeating the concept very simply, which is that Delhi's air pollution is now famous. We have seen multiple articles on it. We've seen multiple answers to that question. But the problem is that all answers are all guesswork because we do not have exact data. There is a lot of blame going around. Center says that it is the state government policy. The state says it is stubble burning. The basic point of the matter is now when we will get this distribution, what percentage is how much, this will give us a clear picture of how we need to intervene. And more than that, this new mobile sites, what are called these mobile vans which will move around, give us real-time data, and this site may become the answer to the solution to Delhi. But here the word may is very important because how will that data be used is equally important. So it's again a developing story in that sense. So very simply, what does this real-time data mean? It means that the tussle between the center and the state over what is the cause of the pollution in winters and the spike in pollution in winters will now somehow have some clarity over who and how do we respond. Basically, this will help us understand how much is actually stubble burning contributing. Because when we talk about the causes of the Delhi pollution, we already know that it has to be vehicles. Vehicular pollution is there, which is adding to the carbon monoxide, the nitrogen and the sulfur into the atmosphere. But there's also construction activity which adds to PM 2.5 and 10 particulate matter. That is also there. We also know that the smoke coming from stubble burning is also very, very important. We also know that there is from time to time in Delhi garbage burning, which is biomass. We have concept of landfills in Delhi, Wazirpur and all, which means that once there is a fire in the landfill, there's also some form of pollution which happens from there. And generally, the genset motors, the diesel engines, generally, we also know that there are miscellaneous causes for this. But we all have been doing guesswork, which is that we know that cumulatively they contribute to 100% of the pollution in Delhi, but we don't know what is the breakup here. And this is why this real-time data monitoring is going to be a game changer, because finally we will get to know, for example, okay, this is only 10%, this is 20%, this is 30%, this is 40%, or 10% again and 5%. Now, basic point is we will get to know, okay, stubble burning, yes, is a problem. Though we know it is, but we needed data to support it. And thereafter the solutions. Solutions, just to give you a basic recap to stubble burning, has been multiple. From torrefaction. Torrefaction is to convert these stubbles into pellets, then make them combustible, torrefaction, pelletization. Then we know the concept of using these stubble for recycled purposes into livestock farming. We also have seen the concept of incentivizing that you give them money not to burn it. But the fact of the matter is, it's about behavioral change also. We've also seen an article which said that there needs to be a total overhaul of the agricultural practices because this is all part of the green revolution. So solutions we know, but now finally we will have an answer. Yes, is it a problem? And if it is a problem, how much is it a problem? So very simply, before we move on to the next topic, which is quite interesting with regards to a temple in the news, this is a topic which I've discussed with you for 3 reasons, very simply. First is that we have a systemic issue in our pollution data, which is that pollution data does not tell us the breakup. It tells us, yes, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, sulfur, nitrogen, this, that. It tells us everything. It tells us PM 2.5 concentration and PM 10 also. But it does not tell us what is the source of that pollution. And this data is going to be extremely significant. Second, you need to understand that there are certain bodies which are linked to this project and that can come in the examination. And third, and the most important is, this will give us a governance-based solution. GS paper 3 question this you can expect here, but it will give us a governance-based solution that how does now policy making work in this direction. Because passing the buck is very simple, blaming other things is very, very simple. But the most important factor here is we need clarity. And that is why this new set of data which it can give us will be a game changer in the long run in that sense. So I hope this topic is clear to you. Then we'll move to the second topic. Yes, based very simple but important in the larger story of Delhi pollution. Delhi pollution has always created at least 2 to 3 questions over a period of time because it creates a certain context for air pollution, and that has always been given as an example in that sense. Now let's go to West Bengal, which is a temple which is called Jatar Deol, 11th, 13th century, 2 different dates. And this is a very interesting article, front page article, GS paper 1. And it tells us how climate change has impacts which we've never thought about itself. So this is a temple in West Bengal, Sundarbans sector, 24 Parganas district. And it has a very important distinction. It's a Shiva temple. 11th, 12th, 11th, 13th century. Historians put it at 13th. ASI says 11th. There are 3-4 very standard features about it. Firstly, it is made out of terracotta bricks. Terracotta bricks means clay bricks. The way we make it today also, it's terracotta bricks. And this is vis-a-vis, you also have other types of temples which have been made by stone. So there are certain type of temples such as Konark, the shore temple at Mahabalipuram. These are stone temples, which is stones used to create the structural temple itself. 2 types of temples are also there. I am revising art and culture with you here, which is monolithic, what is called rock cut, other are structural. Monolithic is one rock carved into a temple, and structural is when you have proper bricks used. But bricks can be made out of stone also and can be made out of terracotta, or what we call as clay bricks, what you use, that red color brick which you use. So it's a very important temple in that regard because it uses terracotta bricks, clay bricks in that sense. And it is based in a place which has a lot of moisture, and the coastal, because the coastal winds which come from the Bay of Bengal hit this temple quite a lot. And because of climate change, there's a impact which we never thought, and we were seeing it mostly in the Harappan sites, but the other way around because of very dry environment. Here it is because of moisture itself. So first let's try to understand this temple, its design, because this temple it becomes important. The name itself, Jatar Deol, so Jatadhari, which is Shiva, so Jatar Deol. The Jatar Deol name itself should ring a bell in your mind. And I hope that you can identify by this which type of temple it is. Can you guess which type of temple this may be? By just that word, which type of temple it will be? Come on. You already know a term. If you've been doing art and culture, you would know it. There's already this term which is in your standard books, Nitin Singhania, any book you go. This would be what? Very good. Very good. Which is, this word comes from the distortion of Rekhadyul. Rekhadyul is the name of Shikhar of Nagara style in Odisha. So let's try to break this down. See, this temple, as I said, Jatar Deol, 11th century according to the ASI. It's a brick made temple, but if you look at the design also, I'll also be ready to guess what type of Shikhar it is, which is that it has been given the name after Jatadhari Shiva, so Jatar Deol, and generally it is linked to a copper plate inscription. So there's a copper plate inscription which is dated again between 10th to 11th to 13th century of a ruler called Jayant Chandra, who talked about constructing this Shiva temple here. So it's an inscription which talks about the construction of the temple itself, but the temple dates between 11th to 13th century. A lot of confusion with regards to that. But the 975 AD or CE is what we place it generally in. And basic point is, this temple is a very important specimen of two things. First, as all of you said, which is Nagara style, and equally important, it is the Odisha school of Nagara style. So just to revise again basic concept with you, what is Nagara? Nagara is nothing but Ardha Mandap, Mandapa, then you have Garbha Griha, then you have Shikhara, then you have Kalash, and then you have a very important Pitha, which is the platform. So there will be a staircase to go up, Ardha Mandap, the entry point, then Mandap, then the Garbhagriha where the god is, and then the Shikhar. Shikhar is always topped with the Kalash, and you can have the Amlaka on the Kalash itself. So this is a very important part of Nagara style. Nagara style does not have a boundary wall, does not have a water tank in it, and basically very beautiful freestanding. Panchayatana can have subsidiary temples also, but the Shikhar is a very important part of Nagara style. Now, if Shikhar is a very important part of Nagara style, Shikhars don't come in one style but three styles. Now, look at this image. So what we've already established is that it is Jatar Deol linked to Raja Jayanta Chandra, dates between again 10th to 13th century. ASI would say that it is 11th century AD or CE, though the historians would say it's 13th century, linked to a copper plate inscription, Shiva temple. Now you look at this image and you need to technically guess what type of Shikhar this is. Come on, what type of Shikhar this is? There are three types of Shikhars. I'll explain it to you. Three types of Shikhars. Not rectangular Shikhar. Very good, Kamlesh. That's the right answer. Very good. This is called Latina. So there are three types of Shikhars. One is called Latina, then Famsana, and Valabhi. Latina is curvilinear, which goes very quickly and meets at the top. Famsana is when it goes something like this, pyramidal. It is more or less either straight or the curve is outwards, the curve here is inwards. And then Valabhi is when the base is rectangular and you have a vaulted chamber over it. This is called Latina, this is called Famsana, this is called Valabhi. Now, these are the three types of Shikhar, and Nagara again gets divided into what is called Khajuraho school, the Odisha school, and the Solanki school. And this is part of what we call as the Odisha school. And in Odisha school, there are two major differences. Shikhar becomes Rekha Dyul, and that is why the name Jatar Dyul. And there is the word Jagmohan, which comes from time to time for the mandap, Jagmohan and Rekha Dyul. So now if you look at this basic Shikhar, the temple itself is what we call as a square plan. But what is equally interesting in that sense is that it is a proper, it's actually a proper Latina. It's a proper Latina, which is that it goes more or less straight, and once they reach a certain point, they then try to very quickly meet it. You see it here also, where it goes straight, and once they reach a certain height, they very quickly bring it together, and this is one of the most important features of a Latina shikhar, and therefore it's a very important specimen of Odisha school Nagara style in West Bengal. And that is why, because West Bengal is mostly what is called, what is the most important feature of West Bengal architecture? What is that important period which is called two basic dynasties? Come on everyone, revise with me. What are the two basic dynasties which influence West Bengal culture, what is called architecture? Come on. Yes, very good. Pala and Sena architecture, which is technically nothing but what we call as Buddhist influence, and they are known for their what is called curved roofs. They're known for their curved roofs. So this is an important specimen because it is not a curved roof which is technically Pala and Sena. Rather, it is what we call as the concept of Nagara. Within that Latina, within that we have Odisha school. So I can now assume that you understand where we are in this story, because it is a very significant design in that sense. Because these type of temples you don't find in the West Bengal sector, because it is influenced by what are called Pala Sena, very polished and very what is called curved shikhar in that sense. But this is it's a true. Now we believe that it had a mandap, it had certain type of mandap which was demolished, but curvilinear Latina, we understand Jayan Chandra, we understand three very simple things. Then I move forward. First is Rekhadyul is nothing but the name of shikhar in Odisha school. In Odisha school, two terms change. Mandap becomes Jagmohan and shikhar becomes Rekhadyul. Now, very simply, that is why the name Jatardyul itself. Dyul was the catch here. Now, you just tell me one thing. First, that you understand the concept of Nagara, then you understand the Latina, then you understand Rekhadyul, then you understand the importance of this temple, and then you also understand what is the basic context here, because this can come in the examination, Raja Jayant Chandra, and over and above that, how we date it in that sense. If this is clear, then we go to the other core issue which is being developed or which is being discussed in this topic. Can we do that? Pala Sena are two dynasties which were there in the early medieval period, which influenced the architecture of, in that, yes, very good, architecture of Bengal in that sense. Last Buddhist dynasty, or the first and the last Buddhist dynasty, Palas. Okay, now, but why are we discussing this topic? Why did the Hindu newspaper talk about it? It discussed three things here, very simply. As I said, it's very significant because it's Odisha school Nagara style in West Bengal itself. But it shows you how climate change is impacting heritage also. Because what we are seeing is that there is a wall which used to be there and is still there in this temple, and because of the salinity in the air which comes with coastal winds itself, when the ocean winds comes, the salinity, the salt content comes in the air itself. Because of the salinity, we believe that, see, terracotta is nothing but clay. And the problem of clay is that if you have moisture and salt, it starts to decompose. So what we believe is that before this temple was not decomposing, was not technically totally what we call as corroding. But with climate change, with more heat and the Bay of Bengal heating much more, the salinity or the air salinity in this area has increased. And historians and ASI are technically pointing out that because of increased salinity in this air, this temple has started to decompose and specifically started to corrode. And this is a very significant point which we get to know. And more than that, we also get to know one more thing, which is that stone temples don't corrode. That is why though Konark and though Shore temple are exactly on the beach, they don't corrode quickly because stone is not as porous as terracotta. So the impact of climate change especially has been increased air salinity in this area, and it is now eroding the outer wall of Jatardeol. More than that, the reason is climate change. Climate change has changed the moisture level and more than that the air salinity of this area, and this is in turn demolishing this temple like termite. Very simple, but over a period of time it will destroy. But a very important distinction which is made, and this can come in the examination also, that why do stone temples survive on the beaches or on the coastal areas but terracotta does not? Because stone temples, such for example the Konark temple of Odisha, does not get affected by salinity because stone is far less porous than the brick. So the porosity is the difference. So stone temple, where the temple has been made by stone, even though salt will be there, it does not corrode very quickly. However, terracotta bricks start to corrode very quickly with moisture and salt. The solution which they are giving is that we are trying to plant trees around this temple so that first it cuts the airflow to the temple itself, and the trees will also be able to take away the moisture and some form of the salt in the air itself. But what will happen to this temple is separate issue altogether. What is more important for you is now it is again in the news. If it's in the news, it becomes important for you. Now, last week we did a very important concept of Maidans. This week we are doing the concept of what we call as Nagara, Odisha, Latina and West Bengal centric or West Bengal based, what we call as Nagara style temples. Second is the more standard thing, which is climate change does not just impact people, it does not just impact the basic environment, it is also impacting our heritage, which is surely but slowly corroding away, eroding away. Topic clear, everyone? Come on. So, Nagara style, Latina, Odisha school, the word Rekhadyul, so Jatardeol. Can we move on? You can plaster the walls, but then technically the original form of design will go away. That is technically plastering over heritage. But why do we need to do that? Can't we change our behavior? Climate change has so many impacts that we don't know. Economic impact, humanitarian impact, now heritage impact also. Now, where is it? Nagara style is North India. Palasena is very specific to Bengal school. Curvilinear, what is called curved roofs like this, which is very specific to Bengal. Now, yes, Akshay. Jagmohan is Mandapa, Rekhadyul is the name of Shikhar. Okay. Now let's move to a very important development for your GS paper 3 and something specific to your prelims, because this comes in the examination, which is a new type of butterfly. Though this butterfly was known in this ecosystem, but for the first time in Arunachal Pradesh, we found a new type of butterfly, the Noble's Helen. Now again, we don't have to go into the concept too much. But what we need to understand is you need to just note three things here. First is what is called the swallowtail butterfly. It's very common in the China, Southeast Asian sector, Myanmar and that sector. Never used to be seen in India. But the known ranges of Myanmar, southern China, Vietnam, we are finding it very rarely. However, in India, it has been found now thrice in the Arunachal sector, and therefore it is very significant because a new type of species has been added to our butterfly list. So, it's an extremely rare Noble's Helen, as it is called, spotted in the location of Namdapha National Park of Arunachal Pradesh. So now this national park becomes important for you. One, this. Second is very important, this. Then Arunachal Pradesh, third. and it is characterized by its white spot, as you can see, white spot on its wing itself. And it is mostly known what are called montane forest, all types of forests, montane forests in northern Thailand. And though its major sector is China, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Myanmar, and the Hubei regions of this area, it has now become extremely rare there. So it has not fully disappeared in Thailand, but now we have been able to spot it 3 times in Arunachal, which means that it has been added as a new species of butterfly into India. Now, why would you say that? Why are we discussing butterflies? Why is it that butterflies are so important? Butterflies are important because they are a very important indicator of the health of a biodiverse, what is called a biosphere itself, or an ecosystem itself. So, because they play a very key feature with regards to cross-pollination, with regards to how the flora and fauna both are interacting with each other. If you find a butterfly which has been not spotted for years, means that the ecosystem of the biosphere is reviving itself back. So butterflies are one of the first to get disappeared if there is disturbance. If there is disturbance in the ecosystem, very quickly butterflies disappear. And that is an indicator that there is a major distress within the ecosystem. Either the food chain has been pushed, either there is pollution, either there is some major disruption. And if you find butterflies coming back, it means that the ecosystem is reviving itself back. So this is a very significant moment, because the ecosystems in which it was known for, which is the whole Southeast Asian sector, southern China and Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam, there it has been disrupted. But it has found a new habitat in Arunachal, which only tells us that there the health of the habitat is good, the health of the ecosystem is good. These are very important key indicators species, and we need to understand them very in a way nuanced way, because butterflies seem very insignificant, but they are the first indicator of distress within an ecosystem. So what have we done till this point? Everybody is with me till this point? No issues? Okay. The basic point of the matter is we've discussed 3 very simple things. We first discussed a new, what we call as the real-time monitoring of air quality in Delhi, but now it will be done within the concept of telling us the source of that air pollution. Second, we discussed a very important development in with regards to heritage, which is how climate change impacts heritage. But we also went to West Bengal to see Jatar Deol. Jatar Deol being a very important Shiva temple and has all the features of Nagara style, Odisha sub-style Latina Shikhar, and how it is a very important specimen within geography which is known for the Buddhist influenced Pala Sena style. And this topic was about a new species which has been found. And that new species itself is extremely important, because that shows us the health of the ecosystems which are there in that sector and what is here in that sense. Okay. Now, the last topic, again an easy one, but a very significant one. It's very specific to, again, Kerala and a very important island there, Manro Thuruthu. This island is introducing in India a very dangerous concept, and this conceptual clarity is very important for you, which is the National Center for Earth Sciences Studies, NCESS, has revealed that because of human activities, anthropogenic interventions, this island is sinking. This island is sinking, it is subsiding into the water, and in Kerala, and specifically in the larger context, first set of climate refugees have been produced. Now this concept of climate refugee is very important for you, because we hear it quite a lot of times with regards to the least developed countries, the LDCs of Polynesia and all. But in India itself, because of lower agricultural productivity, steady land subsistence, which is to go underwater, and tidal flooding, what we believe is that we will see this island disappear in the next 10 to 15 years. Now there are three things you need to understand here. Again, what is the concept of climate refugee? Second is how do you arrest this, which is how do you stop something like this, and what is this concept itself. So first let's try to understand who is a climate refugee. So we believe that people who migrate voluntarily or forcefully because of climate based changes, disasters, are called climate refugees, which is that technically you have no option but to leave this island because it is going underwater. But it is going underwater because of climate change, which is global warming is now impacting us in another way. In a way, the theme today has been about environment, GS paper 3, and climate change. So climate refugees were those who leave their homes and communities because of the effects of climate change and global warming. Climate refugees belong to the larger concept of immigrants called environmental refugees. Basically, they are leaving their home, they have to go somewhere. Where they go, they become an immigrant, therefore refugees. Now this is a very important concept which can now come in the examination. It's been developing. UPSC has not asked a question directly on this. So they can very simply ask you who is a climate refugee, what is a climate refugee, and what is this concept of climate refugees. And Kerala is giving us a very good example of how within a country itself there is now internal movement of people because of what we call as forceful, voluntary, involuntary migration, because your home is not going to survive the effects of climate change itself. Now, what is happening in this island? So this island was known for its sand mining. So sand mining used to happen quite a lot, which is to drag the base of the rivers or the sea itself. So there was a lot of dragging, what is called sand mining in this sector. And what we believe is that because of sand mining, there are now proper structural geological problems in this sector, in this island. And this in turn is threatening the safety of the people itself. So now we know the problem. As yesterday I discussed, some articles give you solution, some articles give you the problem. Problem we know, which is the concept of facing land subsistence, flooding, and lower agricultural productivity. However, this article also gives you two basic solutions which we need to discuss. And the two basic solutions are what is called reverse landscaping and artificial sedimentation process of deep basins. Now, what do you mean by this? This is the solution. This is what you remember for the examination. In GS paper 3, if they talk about the concept of land going underwater, how do you reverse it? How do you mitigate it? These are called mitigation tools. These are called mitigation tools. So when we talk about mitigation tools, first is reverse landscaping. Reverse landscaping is very simply, if I had this landscape, by sand mining, by construction, I modified a certain part of this landscape, and that in turn has produced the geological and systemic issues in that area. So now you reverse landscape, which is that you fill up these areas again, you artificially create these same geological formations and same natural formations in order to make sure that it becomes stable. So it's technically landscaping is changing the landscape of an area. Reverse landscaping is restoring the landscape back to its original form. And second is artificial sedimentation process. This is important because see, when you do sand mining, you technically are removing the sediments of the bed of the river or the ocean itself or the sea itself. So what it is saying that we need to do artificial sedimentation so that we can restore these deep basins back, which is to restore the soil or the sand back. And that will in turn lead to, again, add to the reverse landscaping aspect, therefore making this island stable. The basic point of the matter here is, in the examination, if you just write reverse landscaping and sedimentation, artificial sedimentation process, your work is done. But again, I'm trying to give you an understanding here, which is that you have touched the original landscape, reverse it. And the only way to reverse it is to either bring back the silt and the sand, and you don't change the original geological formations and geographical formations in that area and reverse landscape. So, why are we doing this? We are doing it for a very simple reason. We are doing it for the problem and the new word which we've discussed, which is called the concept of climate refugee. I hope that is now clear. And second, in India, for the first time, we are using this concept, the concept of climate refugees again. For the first time, we've seen this word being used in Indian context. And thereafter, we see the solution. The solution is reverse landscaping, artificial, what we call a sedimentation process. But the basic point here is very simple. This is not something specific to Kerala. It's happening all across the coastal cities of India. And we need to take this as a cautionary tale. We cannot produce climate refugees within India itself. So, what are the 4 topics we did today? First, we discussed the real-time data which is coming out of Delhi or will be coming out of Delhi, source of pollution, systemic issue in our understanding of pollution. Second, we discussed a temple which is eroding because of climate change, air salinity has increased. It is a specimen of Nagara style in what is called within subcategory Latina Shikhar and Odisha school, which is an Udia or Odisha style temple in West Bengal itself, and how the air salinity affects terracotta bricks or bricks more, stone less. Then we discussed a new butterfly which has been found in Namdapha, more than that Arunachal Pradesh. And this topic talks about the concept of anthropogenic, which is man-made disasters being produced and in turn producing climate refugees. Solution being technically reverse engineering in that sense, reverse landscaping and the concept of reverse sedimentation process. It's a concerning story, but we don't know how things will pan out, and most probably people have already abandoned this island itself in Kerala. We need to take it as a cautionary tale and understand and make sure that this does not repeat anywhere else. Straightforward, it is climate change because the sea level is also rising, but here it is more about anthropogenic man-made disasters in that sense. So climate disaster can be both man-made or natural. With this, let's look at the mains questions. Discuss the challenges that climate change poses to our culture and heritage. An interesting question. This can come in GS paper 1 any day with regards to how things technically change in that sense. And here you just have to talk about the way heritage has a purpose, has a significance in the larger story and how we need to protect it. But climate change has, from overheating, what we call as very extreme events of heating, cold, and even what are called cyclonic activities. One whole temple was destroyed in this sector because of the cyclone itself. So these disasters have impact on heritage, and you can talk about this temple itself. Then question number 2, who is a climate refugee? What are the implications for humanitarian institutions with regards to this new type of refugee, which is, there have been different types of organizations. There's this whole UN organization for refugees, but now we are creating a new type of refugee itself. How do you rehabilitate? What does India do for these people? Because it is happening within a country itself. Mostly refugees are international. It's about 2 countries, but here it's about us itself. So it's an interesting set of questions, and I hope that these topics which we discussed today are totally clear to you. As always, the Telegram channel will have 4 to 5 questions for you ready as soon as this session is over. So thank you so much for your patience. I will see you in the next video. Take care.